Have you ever thought about it? How one single moment, one gunshot in a city you've maybe never even heard of, could literally drag the entire planet into the most brutal war in human history up to that point. It seems impossible, right? Well, let's dive in and see exactly how the world went from a long summer of peace to total global war in just a matter of weeks.
So our story starts right here. It's June 1914 in Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who's the heir to the massive Austro-Hungarian Empire, is in town for a visit. And then it happens. A young nationalist steps out of the crowd, a pistol shot rings out, and in that one single instant, the 20th century changes forever. This act of violence, it's the flashpoint. It's the spark.
But that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, leaders had been assassinated before. So why this one? Why did this one particular murder ignite a global firestorm that would end up killing millions and completely redraw the map of the world? Well, the short answer is, Europe was a powder keg just waiting for a match.
To really get it, we need to take a step back and look at the world in 1914. You've got Europe, which is just this tangled mess of tensions and rivalries. And then you have the United States, all the way across the Atlantic, doing its best to stay out of it.
So you've got this stark contrast, right? On one side, Europe is this web of huge, powerful empires, all staring each other down. On the other side, the US is officially saying, nope, this isn't our fight. And this really sets up the two big stories we're going to follow. First, how Europe stumbled into war, and then how America got dragged in too.
So what exactly made Europe such a tinderbox? Well, historians have this really handy acronym to help us remember the four long-term causes. M-A-I-N. That's militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. So let's break down what each of those really means.
Okay, first up, the M in MAIN, militarism. This was a time when building up your military wasn't just for defense, it was a national obsession. I mean, what you're seeing here is a massive arms race. Britain and Germany were locked in this fierce competition to see who could build the biggest, baddest navy, all centered on these new, monster battleships called dreadnoughts. Armies on land were ballooning in size. And it wasn't just about having the weapons, there was this whole culture that glorified war, that saw military strength as the ultimate proof of a nation's greatness. The entire continent was basically an armed camp, just waiting for an excuse to go to war.
Next, we've got A for alliances. And this is where things get really tangled, and honestly, incredibly dangerous. This is the mechanism that turns a small-time conflict into a world war. So the whole continent was crisscrossed with these secret treaties and military alliances. It basically created a system of tripwires. As you can see, you had two main teams, the Triple Alliance, with Germany and Austria-Hungary as the main players, and the Triple Entente, which linked France, Russia, and Britain. The huge danger here was that a fight between any two countries could set off a chain reaction, pulling everybody else into the war, whether they wanted to be in it or not.
Okay, the third major factor, the I in MAIN, is imperialism. This global competition for colonies was just pouring fuel on the fire.
You have to remember, these big European powers weren't just rivals in Europe. They were in a frantic race to build global empires, squabbling over land and resources all across Africa and Asia. This scramble for colonies created all sorts of new rivalries and a deep sense of mistrust among them.
And that brings us to our last ingredient, and maybe the most explosive one of all, N for nationalism.
Now, nationalism was a real double-edged sword. For the big empires like Germany or Britain, it was this intense, aggressive pride that made them want to expand their power. But for smaller ethnic groups who were stuck inside those empires, like the Serbs living under Austro-Hungarian rule, it was this burning desire to break free and create their own nations. And that desire is exactly what brings us right back to that street corner in Sarajevo.
So you've got militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism all simmering for years. Europe was a pot ready to boil over. All it needed was that one single spark.
And just look at how terrifyingly fast the dominoes fell. After the assassination, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Then, Russia, who sees itself as Serbia's protector, starts mobilizing its massive army. Germany sees Russia mobilizing and declares war on them. Then, Germany turns around and declares war on Russia's ally, France. And to get to France, they invade neutral Belgium. And the invasion of Belgium, is what finally brings Great Britain into the fight. In just over a month, that whole tangled alliance system had dragged an entire continent into a catastrophic war. All right, so while all of Europe is erupting into flames, let's hop across the Atlantic. America is watching from a distance, and President Woodrow Wilson makes it crystal clear. The United States will stay out of it.
And for almost 3 years, America did just that. It stuck to its policy of neutrality. But fast forward to April 1917, and American troops are on their way to Europe. So, what changed? What happened that made the U.S. completely abandon its neutral stance and jump into the biggest war in history?
Well, it wasn't just one single thing. It was a whole series of events that slowly, piece by piece, chipped away at America's neutrality, pushing the country closer and closer to the edge.
You can really boil it down to 3 major strikes against neutrality: Germany's aggressive submarine warfare, America's deep economic ties to the Allies, and a really shocking secret proposal that Germany made to Mexico.
Okay, so first up, Germany's U-boats, their submarines. To try and starve out Great Britain, Germany declared that it would sink any ship at all, in the waters around the British Isles. That included neutral American ships. Now, for the U.S., which believed strongly in the freedom of the seas for trade, this policy of unrestricted submarine warfare was a huge deal. It was seen as a direct attack on American rights. And then, in 1915, this policy became horrifyingly real with the sinking of the passenger ship, the Lusitania. A German U-boat torpedoed it, and over 1,200 civilians died, including 128 Americans. This was a massive shock, and it really turned American public opinion sharply against Germany.
Second, you have to follow the money. I mean, look at this chart. The idea that the U.S. was economically neutral is kind of laughable. American banks had loaned over $2 billion to the Allies, and to Germany's side, a measly $27 million. America's wallet was firmly on the Allied side, and if the Allies lost, it would have been an economic disaster for the U.S.
And that brings us to the final straw, the knockout punch. British intelligence intercepted a secret telegram from Germany to Mexico. It's known as the Zimmermann telegram, and in it, Germany proposed a secret alliance. If Mexico agreed to attack the United States, Germany would help them win back Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. I mean, can you believe it? This was a direct threat to American soil. After that, staying neutral was simply not an option. War was inevitable.
So when you put it all together, it wasn't just one thing, was it? It was a perfect storm. An arms race, a web of alliances that acted like tripwires, fierce competition for empire, and this explosive nationalism. The assassination was just the match that lit the fuse. And the question that leaves us with is, in a world that's still full of complex alliances, new military technology, and fierce national pride, have we really learned the lessons of 1914?